What if I told you that the endless, nonsensical maze of the Backrooms is nothing more than the literal, physical manifestation of only half of one man's mind? No more, no less. In Kane's Overflow video, we learn that August 2nd, 1972 was the beginning of it all. A solar storm caused an experiment to go catastrophically wrong, unleashing a surge of anomalous energy that left Ivan Beck physically and psychologically scarred. Seemingly blinded in his right eye, we know that he suffered severe amnesia, losing his past, his childhood in Czechoslovakia, and his emotional ties to his family. But what if that event didn't just blind Ivan's right eye and give him retrograde amnesia? What if the complex didn't just steal Ivan's memories and use them as a blueprint for its design? What if it scanned only the right hemisphere of his brain, the side where he was blinded? What if the complex ripped out half of his consciousness during that accident? The half that feels space, atmosphere, and mood, but completely lacks the left brain hemispheric logic to, let's say, build a functionally correct space, and use that part of him as the blueprint to build itself. And what if everything he's done since, joining Async, building out Project KV31, isn't just based on his desire to rediscover what he saw that night, but a broken man using the cold, logical half of his brain that he has left, desperately trying to breach a nightmare to reclaim the half of himself that was stolen that summer night in 1972. What we know. Before we dive deeper into this, I think it's important that we review what happened in Overflow. First, we know that Ivan was blinded in his right eye during the events of Overflow at Oak Ridge National Lab. It is important to note we don't know this 100% for sure. It's very heavily implied in song titles and artwork Kane's used, but I think it's safe to go on. 2, Ivan's experiment was overloaded from a solar storm, and based on the evidence we have, energy was seemingly ejected into the right side of his face specifically. We also know that he experienced some degree of amnesia after that trauma that he experienced from the experiment overloading. More specifically, retrograde amnesia that caused him to forget his life and who he was before the accident. 3, we know that Ivan is both the protagonist and antagonist of the series, per Kane himself. And 4, the complex built/designed itself on Ivan's mind and memories, at least in the beginning. You know, talking about the Overflow video really brings to mind a lot of the nuclear accidents that happened in like the 1950s. For example, the Demon Core accident, more specifically the second Demon Core accident, where scientist Louis Slotin was balancing 2 halves of a beryllium core, only keeping them apart with a flathead screwdriver. And then when his hand slipped and the 2 hemispheres closed, it went supercritical, gave him a lethal dose of gamma radiation. And here we have Ivan, who's also playing with fire in the pursuit of knowledge, also for the government, and facing different but also terribly devastating consequences. The right brain, episodic memory. Okay, so to understand why the complex looks the way it does, you have to look at how the human brain processes reality. So let's dive into a little neuroscience here.
The brain, a pulpy mass of cells and fibers, is the center of the network of fibers that make up man's nervous system.
The right side of the brain handles things like spatial layouts, mood, atmosphere, associated feelings, and just vibes in general, what you would call episodic memory, while the left side of the brain handles the logic of it all. So, the right side of the brain could interpret the feeling and the look of a room, the yellow wallpaper, the buzzing fluorescent lights, the shitty wet carpet, but it wouldn't be able to interpret the logical layout of a space. Without the left hemisphere, you'd just have doors that led to nowhere, items clipping through walls, weird misshapen hallways, abnormal ratios, and spatial dimensions. So, if Ivan experienced trauma to the right side of his head, and that's what was scanned by the complex, then it does stand to reason that everything that the complex had, all the information it had available to it, came from Ivan's right brain hemisphere, which would explain the lack of logical layouts in the Backrooms, but the abundance of vibes, atmosphere, and feeling that the complex has in spades.
Neighboring areas of the cerebrum perform its secondary functions, analysis and integration. These centers are located in most people on the left side of the brain only.
Take the I Remember video, for example. The poem speaks of a home taken by the sea, cast down with all other forgotten things.
I had a home once, but when skies turned dark, the house was taken by the sea, cast down to the seabed with all the other forgotten things.
There really couldn't be a more perfect summary of what happened to Ivan. If the right brain was what the complex stole, which would be what provided Ivan his emotional connection to and his memory of his home, and if you just swap out the word "see" for complex, then the poem speaks it very plainly. The complex stole Ivan's home from him. It stole the half of his brain that contained his true emotional relationship to it. I mean, Ivan literally names the Project KV31 after his hometown. The symbolism could not be more clear. And this isn't just a figurative idea, it's built into the visual technology of the series. During the 1972 Overflow event, the anomalous energy acted like a massive, corrupted MRI, scanning the electrochemical layout of Ivan's right hemisphere and projecting that raw data back out into a physical space.
If the areas of analysis are injured, we may still see or hear as before, but we cannot understand the meaning of the stimuli we receive. Here, the stored images of past experiences are projected into the future, and here memory comes into play.
The left brain, semantic memory. So, all of that begs the question, if the complex stole Ivan's right brain hemisphere, what does that leave him with? His left brain hemisphere, the cold, calculating, logical part of his brain. And once his memories, his family, his history, and his emotional ties to the past are gone, he focuses all he has left to gain back what he's lost. He joins Async. Beck's efforts at Async are just his cold, logical left brain trying to impose order, grids, and measurements onto his chaotic, infinite right brain creation. Two halves of a whole, separated for decades, with Ivan's remaining left hemisphere doing all that it knows how to do to reconnect itself. It gives Ivan Beck a truly tragic motivation. Joining Async and opening the threshold wasn't truly about infinite real estate or scientific discovery even. Those two motivations were just ploys to get funding and support from Async and the DOE to keep his project alive. Ivan was just obsessively building technology to physically re-enter his own lost subconsciousness and recover those memories, his home, and the identity that he forgot. You know, all of this got me thinking about Kane's favorite video, Lighting and Tile Survey. I had always assumed that he really liked that video for its hyper-analytical, science-y angle of storytelling, and he just had the most fun making that stuff. And I'm sure that's true. But what if it's also a hint at what the core of the story is? That at the center of everything, it's all about Ivan's analytic left brain literally trying to draw straight lines over his right brain's messy watercolor painting. Async is out here giving every sector a name, a number, mapping everything, analyzing distances and measurement ratios between the complex copied creations. In reality, that video might be the ultimate representation of Ivan's tragedy. A man using grid lines, light meters, and tile counts to measure the exact shape of his own missing pieces. Damn, that's tragic. Entity infestation. This split brain theory doesn't just explain the rooms themselves. It explains the terrifying entities living inside them too. The right brain remembers what people feel like, but it has no understanding of biological rules or purpose. That's why we get still life. They're the complex trying to render human presence using pure emotional memory, resulting in twisted, nonsensical figures that mimic human posture without any proper anatomy. And what about the life form? If still life is a memory of a person, the life form is the physical manifestation of an emotion, pure panic. The right hemisphere is tightly coupled with the amygdala, the seat of raw fear and trauma. So the life form isn't just a bacteria that grew into a humanoid shape. It's the physical rendering of Ivan Beck's terror during the 1972 accident. It's a screeching, jagged mass of pure fight-or-flight instinct patrolling the halls of Ivan's stolen right brain hemisphere. Protagonist, Antagonist. Ivan Beck is the protagonist of the story. Ivan Beck is the antagonist of the story. He's two halves of the same whole. Ivan's right brain is the protagonist, stolen away from its home, trying to make itself whole again. And Ivan's left brain is the antagonist, the cold, calculated, disrupting force that remains. It's using industrial tech to violate and conquer his own lost, helpless right brain. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it for today. I hope you really enjoyed this. I worked really hard on this theory. My ADHD brain had to really lock in and focus to see this one through, but I think it really does stand on its own 2 feet. I'd love to know what you guys think. Does this theory stand up in your opinion? Did I get anything wrong that could change things? My favorite part of all this is talking with you guys about it down in the comments or over on the Discord server. Yeah, these are a lot of fun to make, so I hope you stick around and sub and like the video if you feel like I've earned it, and stay for more. Thank you so much for tuning in. I know your time's valuable, so thank you truly for spending it here with me. I really do appreciate it, and I hope to see you guys really soon. Talk to you later. Bye.